That's fine.
So Virginia, we were having trouble with the audio on her tablet, so she's viewing video on the tablet and then speaking on the phone.
And that works. I've had to do that too.
Yeah. Her tablet is the Moto tab.
That's fine.
Virginia, we were having trouble with the audio on her tablet. Oh, no. Video on the tablet and then speaking on the phone.
You do a really good ventriloquist act there. All right, I have 11:30. Marcia, are you ready on your side? While I'm waiting for an answer, I will tell you, I watched the FDA's Zoom meeting as they approved the first vaccine. And we're not the only people that have problems with Zoom and different technologies. They had many during the meeting. It was kind of comical to think that we're not the only ones that have issues occasionally. So.
Mike, this is Jeff. I just want to make sure that I'm online here.
Yep, I have you on, I hear you, and that's good. I see two screens for you. And I see Karen now. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Jeff.
Good afternoon.
And I think we're just waiting for maybe some technical difficulties at the home base. I have you're muted at this point.
Grounding isn't gonna, I guess we'll find out.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
And only once.
I think our technical difficulties hopefully have been fixed.
I would say it sounds like it.
Okay, we are ready for you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much. I'd like to call the order the finance meeting for December 15th. And if we can start, please, Marcia, with a roll call.
Mr. Lewis,
Mike Lewis, Ravenna Township here.
Mr. Childers,
Jeff Childers, Southern Portage County.
Ms. Harris,
Virginia Harris, Streetsboro.
Ms. Beck,
Karen Beck, Kent.
Mr. Ginn, you're muted. Mr. Ginn,
In Middle Portage County. Thank
Mr. Markey,
Justin Markey, Retzel Andrews.
Ms. Jurish,
Kelly Jurish, PARTA.
Ms. Amrine,
Claudia Amrine, PARTA.
Marcia Fletcher, PARTA,
Rebecca Schrader, PARTA.
All right. Thank you, Marcia. I think we're pretty much ready to roll forward. Second thing on the agenda is guest communications, which at this point I do not believe we have any. Old business, we covered quite a bit in the last one when it came to budget. And this month we are going to be covering basically 2 months of relying heavily on the current the most recent past month, I guess I should say. Is there anything else on old business that needs to be covered?
Not that I'm aware of.
Shaking of the head. So we'll move right into new business and I'll turn it over to Rebecca. Thank you.
Okay, so I am going to go ahead and share my screen. So you guys should see that. Okay, so I am looking at the November expense and revenue report. I glanced back at October and there really wasn't anything new. Actually, let me say, in October, we received $800,000 in our federal capital maintenance assistance. So that is at 100%. And we received $478,000 in the CARES money. So those were two significant things in October. And really, there wasn't much else in expenses. So let's look at November. So in November, again, we're starting to get better with the variances for fare box and agency cash grants. We actually were on the plus side for KSU revenues. For this month, $202,000 is booked. 22,000 of that is actually October's revenue. We found an error where we needed to invoice them the additional $22,000, but the books for October had been closed already. So those revenues ended up getting booked into November's revenue. But the year-to-date of $1.6 million is accurate. So we did not receive about $520,000 that we had budgeted for the year. Our state fuel tax refunds were good. We had another grant. We budgeted for $800,000 for federal maintenance, federal capital maintenance. There was another grant for $50,000. You can see here, $50,438,000. We were able to draw down another partial month of revenue, federal revenue. So we actually received more than what we had budgeted for. But at this point, that's it for the year. We're done with that line item. And then the $465,000, this is the end of the CARES money. You can see we've received $4,097,737. So the CARES money is gone. And our sales tax revenue continues to still track above budget. We had a large other revenue check come in for the month. The Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation decided to give back a percentage of past premiums that had not been used. So we received a check, I think it was $76,000 from the Bureau of Workers' Comp for past premiums. The funny thing is we have an invoice now that needs to be paid next Monday for $76,000 for 2021's premium. So I think that's kind of funny. The annual projected numbers really haven't changed much. And then moving on to expenses, there were there were 3 paydays in the month of November. So for the month, it was a little bit high. We're still running a little bit above our budget for health insurance, but that has not changed. And really the rest of the expenses are all right on track. So for the month, we had a surplus of $721,000. And for the year, we have about $5.6 million for accrued, if you will, expenses and revenues. And that's what I'm expecting pretty much by the end of the year. There's not going to be too many changes. Any questions on this report? Okay, hearing none, I am moving on to the capital report. The $721,000 from the operating report came over, and we did one drawdown for capital items, which is hard to see, at least on the screen. We had a drawdown for a invoice for the bus storage facility of $363,000. That was the only thing we did a drawdown for capital. And we had no capital expenses for the month of November. For the month of October, we did have an invoice of $454,000, which then correlates to the drawdown, 80% of the total that I did in November. In the restricted box, set aside, we have $2.9 million. Some of the local match left over for the bus wash and storage facility, which is, I'd say, 98% completed. They're finishing out some of the punch list items. But that draw, as I've said before, is not completely used. We'll be using the remaining funds. The contract will be done with Campbell, but the grant funds will be used for the next phase, which will be the build outs that we're doing for storage, record storage, and a workout room. So those funds will sit there until next year. The 4 diesel transit buses that we were supposed to be receiving about this time have still been postponed because of COVID. We're looking at receiving those. The last I heard was May, maybe July. So sometime next, middle of next year. And then the 3 2021 buses, we will be ordering after we do a procurement in January. So we've got items set aside. You can see the LTV buses. 5 of the LTV buses, the 2020 LTV buses, have just arrived at the end of last week. So that's exciting news. And then we've set money aside for future capital projects. We do have a large number of buses in 2023 that I'm looking ahead to that were kind of purchased all at the same time that will be going out of their useful life at the same time. So we need to be cautious and make sure we're planning ahead for that. I do have a working document, a 3 to 5 year operating and a 3 to 5 year capital budget that I from time to time update, and that's kind of what we're looking at with this information. That's the capital information. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, next report would be the statement of net position or balance sheet or net, whatever you want to call it. For the month of October, you can see cash coming in, receivables going up because of Kent State, and you can see the building expenditure that you just saw in the last report. So no really surprises there. So for November, again, we have an increase in cash and cash equivalents. Receivables have gone down for the month of November. Primarily, that's again because of Kent State. And payables, because we paid that large construction invoice. The other thing that is increasing is, I guess that would be under, hold on, let me see where that is. Receivables. This payroll, this payroll deferred accrual, this started in October. Because of our balances with the Kent Central Gateway, every 2 weeks, the Kent Central Gateway will reimburse PARTA for the payroll expenses. We have a payroll company, Paylocity, that processes our payroll. They process it for our entire company, and then the expenses get booked in the Gateway's reports. Because of the cash flow situation for both the months of October and November, you know what? I just realized that the 3 pays were in October and we had 2 pays in November. Sorry about that. So the last 2 pays in October and the 2 pays in November are sitting as a receivable for PARTA. When the Gateway has cash, we will go ahead and pay. And so on the Gateway reports, you will see it as a payroll payable. So that's new for this report. You can see currently it's $41,000 that we owe, that PARTA owes to the Gateway. Any questions on this report or on PARTA's reports as a whole? You guys are making this easy on me.
Rebecca, just real quick, that last, on talking about the payroll deferrable or deferred,
Yes.
you said that's money PARTA owes to the Kent Gateway?
No,
Other way around.
PARTA has paid Paylocity. It's the Gateway's payroll expenses that they owe back to PARTA.
Got it.
Anything else before I move on to the Gateway? Okay, moving on to the Gateway. So for the month of October, we had 3876 in month, I should just go to the total. We had a total of 5938 cars in the deck. In November, we had 4538 cars in the deck. So it decreased from October to November, we had a decrease of 24%. You can see that on the corresponding graphs. So comparing January through November of last year to January of November of this year, it has decreased 49.6%, which it hasn't changed. It's not a surprise. So there really isn't, none of these other graphs really have fluctuated very much. So those are the numbers. So we'll get on to the expenses and the revenues. Looking at October, we had a monthly deficit of $25,514. Again, and let's look at the summary. Let's look at the overall summary. So you can see both October and November. So let's just start at the top. So hotel has been staying relatively consistent. The average for August, September, October, November is $7,179, so about $7,000 a month. The monthly parking was $15,000 for both months, and daily parking so for the average of August, September, October, November, the average is 4,115. So we've kind of, I think, leveled out for COVID times anyways, and hopefully it'll start to pick back up next quarter. This $5 is just a paperwork, what's the word? Correction. One of these months back here, there was 7505 booked, and so this was, I just corrected it. We have been getting paid by the Kent City Health Department, and we had $98 of other revenues. So $37,000 for 1 month and $25,000 for November. So then expenses, as I mentioned before, October we had 3 pays, and then in November we had 2 pays. for $17,000. None of the other fringe is low for November. So back in, I think, August, there were July and August. We had 2 invoices, each of $5,000 for a total of $10,000 that we paid to Skidata to upgrade the system. After looking at it and doing some auditing, realized that that was really a fixed asset. So there you can see a negative $10,000 that is in contract maintenance services. That is because I reclassed the Skidata invoices to be a fixed asset instead of an operating expense. Other services was just a little bit high for this month. Let's see if I can grab it here real quick. Other services, we had an upgrade to the electric car charging station. We had to, in order to continue getting support from that company, we needed to upgrade the modem from 3G to 4G. And we also had a 3rd invoice for our security. We got an invoice right at the end of the month, November 30th. So I think that's just a timing issue, getting that extra invoice for security because there's no other unusual expenses in that line item. And everything else pretty much stayed the same. You can see we had a surplus of $343 for the month, but that's because we took out the Skidata invoices. But still, I'm going with that surplus. So anything, so for the year, we're looking at an overall deficit of $127,000. And really, there were some changes. I looked at the projected, it was 138, and I adjusted it. And now I'm projecting 139,000 by the end of the year, as we'll have a deficit. Any questions on the gateway?
Rebecca, I have 2, and there's
Okay.
clarifications. If you go back to the retail revenue that the $5 adjustment was made to in November, that was, you said, an adjustment. I know it's only $5. You said 7505 was entered at a different time.
And I think I manually overrode it and fixed it for the reports, but when I looked at the accounting software, it was still in there.
So your year-to-date totals are off by the 5 also.
Yep, I'll fix that.
Yeah, that was an adjustment, then it should. And then a second thing, when you speak on fixed assets compared to operating, and you did the adjustment there, what, for definition, just for future, what is considered fixed and what is considered operating? Do we have a guideline that says over a certain amount or over a certain time?
Yes, we do. A fixed asset is anything, and a thing can be defined in different ways, but anything that is more than $5,000 and has more than a 1-year useful life. So where we get in the weeds is if we bought like a whole pallet of new computers and the total of it is $20,000, but each computer is $2,000. Do you book that as a fixed asset or do you book that as an operating expense? And the answer is it depends.
On this one, you had a maintenance contract?
It was upgrade, software upgrades.
Okay, so you put a book life of less, or I'm sorry, more than 12 months on that then?
Yes.
Okay.
And as a whole, each invoice was more than 5,000, but as a whole, which is what it really was, we just paid it in 2 stages. It was a $10,000 invoice, and that software should most definitely last more than 1 year.
Okay. Thank you.
So you'll see that on our overall net position. If fact, so that kind of segues right into the next report. You can see it right here, 10,769 for parking control equipment. So it'll show up on the balance sheet, not as an operating expense. And will go towards our total net position as opposed to our operating profit or loss. So for our statement of net position, really no major changes. So I'm in November. I need to look at this because this should be a $40,000 change. So on this statement, because we already have accrued net payroll as part of our closing in December, we accrue the payroll from the time our last payday to the end of the year. So I do accrual that pay. So we already have an accrued net payroll that doesn't usually change until the end of the year. And so the new payable that is due to PARTA is kind of mixed in with this accrued net payroll. If I go back, accrued net payroll, you can see it's 16,330 is what the accrued payroll normally is. So that has increased 40,000. Should have increased 40,000, which I'll have to look at, but it seems to be right. It's just I'm not communicating that very well right now. There's the 20,000. Oh, this is the change from, sorry, that was a silly mistake. So this is the change from the prior month. So in October, it was 20,000, and then from October to November, it was another 20,000. So comparing September to November, you'll see the 40,000. Sorry about that. Any questions for me?
Well, I do not hear any. Thank you very much for going through everything with us. I do appreciate that, as do we all. And again, I think Kent Gateway, we understand what's going on there, and we'll see what happens with that in the future, but PARTA still seems to be doing really well. So thanks very much, Rebecca. Anything else under new business? Hearing nothing, I see that on the agenda we have 3 resolutions. Starting with Resolution 2020-1201. It's a resolution by Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees authorizing the general manager or her designee to participate in and contribute to risk pooling with the Ohio Transit Risk Pool. So I will turn that over for discussion, please.
So actually, we sort of already approved this with the budget last month when we approved the budget, but because this is a specific procurement that is more than $100,000, we bring those annual reoccurring resolutions to the board. We should have brought it to the board last month. We were focused on other things and we didn't bring it. So that is what we budgeted for, plus the $12,000 in deductibles is already on the budget.
Okay. So even though it's on the budget, we're going to put it to a vote, or no, I'm sorry, a vote to approve to the board. Was that correct?
Correct, because it's a single vendor invoice for more than $100,000. So to be in compliant with our procurement policy, we need the board to approve that.
Very good. So can I have a motion to approve this to the board, please?
I'll approve.
I had 2 voices. I'm sorry I didn't pick up.
I'll do that, Mike. Jeff
Thank you.
Childers.
Jeff, thank you very much. So I have a first by Jeff. Can I have a second, please?
Second by Virginia.
Thank you, Virginia. Appreciate it. So I have a first and second. Do I have any other discussion? So all in favor?
Aye.
Do I have any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution will be presented to the board with the Finance Committee's support. Second resolution we have is 2020-1202, a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees approving expenditures for licensing and maintenance for Trapeze Software Group. So we'll have discussion on that now.
So this is along the exact same lines. This is something that we budgeted for in our operating budget for Trapeze, but because it's more than $100,000, we need the board to approve that separately.
Very well. Can I have a motion?
Virginia.
Virginia, thank you. And a second, please.
Jeff will second then.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes and a resolution will be moved on to the board for approval. Last one, 2020-1203, a resolution by the Portage Area Regional Transportation Authority Board of Trustees authorizing the award of a contract to, is it Glado Trading and Marketing Company, LP, to provide diesel and gasoline fuel for 2021, and authorizing the general manager to sign a federal excise tax exemption certificate on behalf of PARTA. This is a joint venture with Akron Metro RTA, Western Reserve RTA, and Stark Area RTA. We'll have discussion on the resolution.
So yes, this is a new company to us. They're out of Indiana. We call them Gladio or Gladiators. That seems to just work better. We did a lot of research. We've got some good references. They came in with the lowest bid for both. They came in the lowest for diesel. We had another company that came in as the lowest for gasoline, but they withdrew their bid. They didn't want a gasoline only contract. So it went to the second lowest bidder, which happened to be Gladio. So we were able to have them supply both of our diesel and gasoline. You can see the prices in the resolution. It came in for diesel. It came in at $202, which is right, 202. Let me see it.
No.
No. Oh, I haven't updated my. It came in at 156. This was a change from last year. Last year it was 202, I believe. I don't know why my spreadsheet is not updated. That's strange. And we budgeted, because that's what you really want to know. We budgeted for 210. It came in at 156 for diesel. And then for gasoline, we most likely will be paying predominantly the 143. That's when it's delivered with the diesel. If we ordered just a gasoline tanker to come, that's going to be at 154 per gallon. Those numbers are before the taxes that are required. For gasoline, we budgeted $2 plus tax. So came in well below what we had budgeted, which is really great news.
Very good. All right. So I guess at this point, if I can have a motion to recommend approval to the board on 2020-1203.
Mike, I'll motion that we send this to the board with our recommendation.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a first, and can I please have a second?
I'll second it, Virginia.
Virginia, thanks for the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution will be moved forward to the board with the Finance Committee's support for approval. Anything else that needs to come at this point? I'm
Not
seeing,
that I'm aware of.
okay, I'm seeing heads shake. So any need for an executive session? I don't know of any, and I see none. So then I will have a motion to adjourn at this point.
I'll motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Jeff. Can I have a second, please?
And everybody have a good, Merry Christmas.
Very good. And I'll take that as the second, and we will adjourn the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I'll second it.
I can take it
I'll
anyway.
second.
You were there. I'm good, and I agree.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We have our next finance committee is actually not until February on the 23rd. And also we'll see everybody Thursday for the meeting and either the administrative or the board meeting at 7 o'clock. I thank everybody for taking time out of their day today. Stay safe as always. The sun is out. It might be a little cold, but enjoy the sun, and we'll see everybody a little later on this week. Take care.
Thank you. See you Thursday.
Hey, Virginia, if you want to stay on for a minute, we can see if we can fix your audio.
Okay. All righty.
So on the side, on the edge of your tablet, there should be a volume button.
And it's all the way up.